Alina followed Ellis's quiet footsteps, her senses alert to every sound, the soft crunch of undergrowth beneath their feet, the distant call of night birds, the subtle pulse of magic that seemed to hum in the very air around them. They walked deeper into the Empire's heart, to a place where the jungle opened into a secluded glade, bathed in moonlight and fragrant with the scent of blooming flowers. In the center of the glade stood the flower, the rare, mystical bloom that had so altered Alina's life. It shimmered faintly, its petals glowing with an otherworldly light that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Alina stepped closer, her breath catching in awe as the flower's petals unfurled slowly, revealing intricate patterns that danced like whispered memories. The air thrummed with a soft melody, a song woven from the flower's essence, beckoning her to reach out. Ellis's pale hand lifted, her silver-vined hair catching the moonlight as she spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. The flower sings to those who listen with their soul, Alina. It holds more than memories, it carries the power to bridge worlds. But to wield it, you must learn to harmonize with its song, not command it. Alina's fingers hovered uncertainly over the petals, their warmth radiating through her skin. Tentatively, she touched the bloom. A jolt of energy surged through her, a delicate yet potent force that threaded into her very being. Her heart raced, but a calm clarity settled over her mind. The flower's magic was alive inside her now, a living thread connecting her to the forgotten king's soul and the Empire's tangled past. Ellis guided Alina through the first lessons of floral magic. They sat beneath an ancient tree with roots entwined in glowing vines, the jungle around them alive with whispered secrets. Ellis's chant wove through the night air, weaving spells that shimmered like silver light between the leaves. Alina closed her eyes, feeling the rhythm of the jungle and the flower's pulse entwined within her. It was a communion of senses: sight, sound, scent, and spirit that transcended ordinary understanding. When Alina opened her eyes, the world shifted. She found herself standing within the dreamscape, a realm where reality melted into memory and magic. Swirling petals glided through the mist, forming luminous pathways that beckoned her forward. She reached out, trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement, and guided the flower's magic to part the misty veil. Behind it, she glimpsed vivid scenes of the Empire's history, tribes united and torn apart. Faces marked by hope and despair, shadows of King Velen's reign painted in strokes of light and darkness. Each memory was like a living painting, rich in color and emotion. Alina's heart ached with the weight of the past, but she also felt a growing resolve. The flower's power was not merely to dominate or erase, but to reveal and heal. Here, in the dreamscape, the tyrant's memories could be understood, not feared. Back in the glade, Ellis smiled softly. "You have taken your first step, Alina. The flower song is no longer a whisper, but a melody you can follow. With it, you can navigate the shadows and bring light to forgotten truths." Days passed as Alina practiced the delicate art of floral magic. In the sanctuary of her modest home, she coaxed the flower's petals to bloom anew, releasing shimmering motes of light that danced like fireflies in the twilight. The room filled with a soft fragrance, earthy and sweetened. A faint murmur of forgotten songs echoed in the air. Each moment deepened her connection, and with it, her understanding of the delicate balance she must maintain. She confided in Morrow, describing her progress and newfound hope. "It feels like I'm no longer just a vessel," she told him one evening as they sat beneath the sprawling canopy. "I can shape this power, not just be shaped by it. Maybe I can use it to heal, not harm." Morrow's gaze was steady, his loyalty unwavering. "You're stronger than you know, Alina, but be careful." The flower's magic is as dangerous as it is beautiful. Alina nodded, the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The Empire's future depended on her not just to master the flower's magic, but to find a path that honored both the light and shadow of its history. That night, as she drifted into sleep, the flower's petals shimmered softly on her bedside table, their gentle glow casting dancing shadows on the walls. A new song had begun, a song of possibility, of healing, and of the fragile hope that even the darkest memories might bloom into something beautiful. But deep within the dreamscape, the whisper of the forgotten king stirred, listening closely to the melody that now bound them both. And Alina knew the journey was only just beginning. Every rustle of leaves and crack of twig echoed loudly in her ears. Beside her, Morrow's steady presence was a small comfort amid the growing storm. "We can't let them find out where you're hiding it," Morrow whispered, eyes scanning the shadows. "Doran's already sniffing around the market, and I've heard whispers of other factions gearing up for a move." Alina nodded, her green eyes sharp despite the fatigue shadowing her face. "I understand, but we can't just keep running. The flower's power is too important, too dangerous to fall into the wrong hands." They reached a small clearing where the sunlight filtered through the canopy in streaks of gold and emerald. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming orchids, a fragile beauty at odds with the tension that gripped her heart. Here, Alina allowed herself a moment to study the flower again. Its petals, delicate yet vibrant, shimmered faintly, as if breathing with a life of their own. The whispered memories trapped within stirred restlessly. "I wish Ellis were here," Alina murmured. "I feel the weight of those memories growing heavier. If I'm to protect the flower, I need to understand how to harness its power without losing myself." Morrow's gaze softened. "She's guiding you through the dreamscape. But this world, this jungle, it's just as dangerous." That night, under a sky where stars blinked like distant fires, Alina entered the dreamscape once more. Ellis awaited her amid a swirling garden of petals and shadows. The dreamscape was alive, pulsing with the memories of King Velen and the jungle empire's shadowed past. Floral patterns blossomed and twisted around them, scent thick and intoxicating, carrying echoes of long-forgotten rituals. The factions close in. Ellis's voice was a soft murmur against the hum of petals. "You must learn to cloak the flower's essence within the dream, hide its power where no waking eye can find it." Alina reached out, touching a glowing petal that rippled beneath her fingertips. Images flashed, visions of betrayal, battles, and the tyrant king's iron grip on the empire. Yet beneath the cruelty lay a complex soul, haunted by regrets and a vision twisted by fear. "I don't want to be his prisoner," Alina said, voice trembling. "But I can't just destroy the flower either. Its memories could heal if used wisely." Ellis nodded solemnly. "Balance is fragile. Trust is scarce. Be cautious." Meanwhile, in the bustling memory market, Doran wove through the crowd with practiced ease. The air was thick with the scent of exotic spices and the sharp tang of memory vials being traded like precious gems. His eyes, sharp and calculating, searched for any sign of the flower's presence. Rumors had reached him, whispers of a rare bloom with unmatched power. To Doran, it was not just a prize, but a means to cement his dominance in the treacherous world of memory trade. He paused near a store where a vendor displayed shimmering orbs of stored memories. The cacophony of voices and clinking glass was a stark contrast to the silent, potent threat the flower posed. "Find it," he ordered under his breath, "no matter the cost." Back in the jungle, Alina found herself alone beneath the moon's silver glow. The night was alive with the chorus of insects and the rustle of leaves, but her thoughts were a tempest. The flowers, petals, pulsed softly in her hands, a heartbeat bridging past and present. She felt the tyrant's lingering presence pressing against her mind, a cold whisper promising power and dominion. "I won't let you take me," she whispered fiercely, not without a fight. Her resolve hardened like the bark of the ancient trees surrounding her. The veil of petals that cloaked the flower was both a shield and a prison. To protect the empire, she would need to navigate the treacherous dance between light and shadow, memory and forgetting, power and freedom. The days ahead promised danger and revelation, and Alina knew that the fragile peace of the jungle empire hung in the balance like a delicate bloom in a storm. As the tendrils of the past and present entwined, her journey was far from overreach. Step deeper into the mystery threatened to unravel not only the empire's secrets, but her very soul. Yet beneath the weight of uncertainty, a cautious hope flickered. In the heart of the jungle, amid petals and shadows, the future awaited its guardian. Alina sat cross-legged on the woven grass mat, her green eyes fixed intently on Sari, the village elder who had agreed to share secrets long buried beneath layers of silence. The flickering light of the fire carved sharp shadows across Sari's lined face, illuminating the silver streaks braided with wildflowers in her hair. Her voice, soft yet unwavering, wove through the humid air like a haunting melody as she began the tale. "Before Velen's shadow fell upon us," Sari whispered, "our tribes lived in tenuous harmony, bound by ancient rites and respect for the jungle's breath. But the king sought unity not through peace, but through fear and iron." Alina leaned forward, the faintest tremor betraying her resolve. The memory of the flower's petals, each holding whispers of the tyrant's soul, seemed to pulse faintly against her chest. The stories Sari told were not the sanitized versions. Found in the Empire's official archives, those dry records that erased pain and dissent but raw, vivid accounts passed down in secret. Tales of uprisings quelled with ruthless efficiency, of sacred groves burned to ash, and of a people's resilience etched into the very roots of the jungle. After hours of listening, the fire reduced to embers, Sari rose and gestured toward a concealed trapdoor beneath a tangle of hanging vines. "There is more," she said gravely. "Hidden beneath the village is a chamber where our ancestors kept their truths. Few have dared to enter in decades." With a mixture of trepidation and determination, Alina followed through the narrow passage, the air growing cooler and dense with the musty scent of aged parchment and forgotten wood. The chamber was a shrine to memory itself, scrolls and tablets layered in dust, their faded script a fragile bridge to a past suppressed by the Empire's collective amnesia. Alina's fingers trembled as she traced the delicate lines of a scroll chronicling a great battle where tribes united to resist Velen's forces. The words spoke of sacrifice and hope, of leaders who dreamed not of conquest but coexistence. Here was a truth long erased, a story that reframed the tyrant not as an inevitable ruler but as a conqueror who crushed potential futures. Days passed as Alina returned repeatedly to the chamber, piecing together fragments of oral histories and forbidden texts. Each revelation deepened her understanding of the Empire's complex legacy, revealing the high stakes of memory control. To erase or manipulate memory was not merely an act of forgetting, it was a weapon that shaped identity, loyalty, and power. One afternoon, as the golden jungle light filtered through the canopy, Alina and Sari walked through a sacred grove adorned with blossoms that seemed to shimmer with an ethereal glow. Petals drifted gently on the humid breeze, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine and wild orchids. Sorry pointed toward ancient carvings on moss-covered stone, symbols of rebellion, unity, and the enduring spirit of the tribes. This garden is a living testament, Sorry said softly. Even as Velen sought to break us, the jungle itself remembers. It holds the seeds of resistance and renewal. Alina reached out to touch a vibrant flower whose petals curled like tiny flames, feeling a surge of connection to those who had come before. The weight of the tyrant's memories within the flower she carried now felt balanced by this newfound history, one of courage and hope. Later, standing at the edge of a crumbling stone altar entwined with vines and blossoms, Alina closed her eyes and let the jungle's pulse wash over her. The engraved symbols beneath her fingertips whispered of defiance, sacrifice, and the possibility of reconciliation. The garden's secret was no longer hidden, it was a beacon. As she opened her eyes, Alina's resolve hardened. The path ahead would be fraught with peril, but armed with the truth of the tribe's resistance. She could confront the darkness of the past and fight for a future where memory was a gift, not a chain. With the flower's petals unfurling softly in her satchel, Alina stepped back into the light, ready to weave the garden's secret into the Empire's unfolding story. The balance between remembering and forgetting, between destruction and renewal, rested now in her hands. But as the shadows lengthened beneath the jungle canopy, a distant rustle warned that powerful forces watched, waiting for the moment to strike. The garden's secret was revealed, but would it be the salvation the Empire desperately needed, or another spark in the tinderbox of memory's perilous trade? Alina's breath caught. The journey was just beginning. Shadows danced across the walls, cast by the flickering lantern light that barely illuminated the delicate petals of the mystical flower resting on her wooden desk. She reached out tentatively, fingers barely brushing the velvety surface of the bloom. A shiver ran down her spine as a whisper flickered in her mind. The tyrant's presence stirring within the depths of her consciousness. It was no longer a distant echo, but a living thread woven into the fabric of her being. The soul of King Velen, the forgotten tyrant, pulsed softly, a blend of power and menace that unsettled her. Alina clenched her jaw, fighting the urge to recoil. But the flower's essence seeped into her thoughts, a relentless tide that blurred the edges of her identity. She closed her eyes, and the world shifted beneath her. The sterile walls of her study melted away, replaced by a garden unlike any she had known, a realm of dream and memory where the laws of nature bent and twisted. Flowers bloomed in impossible hues, petals dripping with iridescent dew, but beneath their beauty lay something darker. Blood-red blossoms unfurled alongside thorns sharp enough to draw blood, scraping her skin as she walked. From the shadows emerged King Velen, his form woven of petals and shadows, regal yet ominous. His piercing eyes held both command and something achingly human: regret, pain, and longing. He spoke, his voice a haunting melody that resonated deep within her mind. He recounted his brutal victories, the unification of tribes through fear and force, but also the moments of solitude and despair that followed his reign. Alina felt a strange empathy stir within her, conflicting with the terror that gripped her heart. How could someone so cruel also be so human? The duality unsettled her, pulling her deeper into a labyrinth of emotion where compassion and fear collided. Suddenly, the dreamscape dissolved, and she found herself by the riverbank. The scent of jasmine and wet earth filling her lungs. Moro was there, his sun-tanned skin glistening with sweat, eyes sharp with concern. He spoke urgently, warning her that the flower's influence threatened to consume her, eroding the boundaries between her soul and the tyrant's. "You're slipping, Alina," he said, voice low but firm. "You have to fight it, or you'll lose yourself to him." His words echoed in her mind, stirring a tempest of doubt. Was she still the botanist who sought understanding, or was she becoming a vessel for a darkness too vast to control? Later, under the guidance of Ellis, the enigmatic dreamwalker, Alina traversed a forest of silver petals, where silence reigned and forgotten voices whispered on the breeze. Ellis's presence was a calming force, a reminder that memory was both shadow and light, pain and hope intertwined. "You must embrace both," Ellis counseled softly, her voice like the rustle of leaves. "Only then can you find balance between the past's cruelty and the future's promise." Alina nodded, feeling the weight of her struggle, but also a fragile hope taking root. The journey was far from over, but she understood now that the path to healing lay not in denial, but in acceptance of the tyrant's soul, her own fears, and the possibility of redemption. As dawn broke over the jungle empire, Alina stood at the threshold of transformation, the petals and thorns within her heart entwined in a delicate dance of light and shadow. The battle for her identity had only just begun, and the choices she would make next could shape not only her fate but the future of the empire itself. What price would she pay to keep her soul intact? And could the petals of the forgotten king ever truly bloom into something beautiful? The questions hung in the air like fragile blossoms waiting to unfold. As Alina prepared to confront the darkness within and beyond, Alina moved carefully through the labyrinth of stalls, her eyes flickering to the precious flower nestled within the folds of her satchel. The petals, faintly luminescent in the dim jungle light filtering through the canopy above, seemed almost to pulse with a heartbeat of their own. She was acutely aware that the flower was the prize everyone sought, and its presence here was both a beacon and a burden. Beside her, Morrow's presence was a steadying force. His stocky frame and sun-tanned skin contrasted sharply with the delicate flora Alina so cherished, but his keen eyes scanned every face, every shadow. "We can't afford to let our guard down," he murmured, his voice low but firm. "Doran's men are likely already tailing us." Alina nodded, her fingers tightening around the satchel strap. The market was a dangerous place, melting pot of traders, thieves, and memory dealers whose allegiances shifted as quickly as the tides. Memories were currency, but also weapons, and the stakes had never been higher. Suddenly, a piercing whistle cut through the chatter, sharp and commanding. The crowd's attention snapped to a group of rough-looking men who pushed through the stalls with practiced aggression. Doran's enforcers, unmistakable in their coordinated movements and the glint of weapons beneath their cloaks. "Protect the flower," Morrow shouted, stepping forward to intercept two attackers who surged toward Alina. The market erupted into chaos as vendors scrambled to secure their goods and patrons fled, the air thick with shouts and the clash of steel. Alina's heart pounded as she ducked behind a stall, the flower's petals brushing against her palm, warmth radiating from it. She closed her eyes briefly, drawing on the knowledge Ellis had imparted. The flower's magic was as much a shield as it was a prison. With a whispered incantation, she extended her hands toward the advancing assailants. Vines burst forth from cracks in the stone floor, twisting and curling with vivid green life, thorns gleaming sharply. The attackers were ensnared, their movements slowed and then halted as the plant matter tightened around them, the scent of blossoming petals mingling with the tension in the air. Morrow grunted as he dispatched two more foes, his carved talisman swinging with practiced force. "Alina, now's our chance." But the battle was far from over. Doran himself appeared at the edge of the fray, his sharp eyes locking onto the glowing flower. He smiled coldly, signaling reinforcements who poured into the market like a dark tide. The fight turned desperate. every moment stretched thin with the possibility of loss. Amid the turmoil, Alina felt a strange calm wash over her, the flowers, power intertwining with her own resolve. She could feel the memories within it, the tyrant king's presence, fierce and commanding, urging her to seize control. But she pushed the influence back, focusing instead on the living green around her. The tide began to turn. The attackers, entangled and disoriented, started to retreat under the pressure of the combined botanical magic and Morrow's steadfast defense. Sirens wailed in the distance, guards responding to the disturbance. Breathless, Alina and Morrow found refuge behind a toppled cart, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared relief. "We held them off," Morrow said, wiping sweat from his brow. "But this won't be the last attempt." Alina nodded, clutching the flower close. The market was scarred, but the battle had revealed something crucial: their bond, their strengths, and the unyielding importance of the flower they guarded. As the guards arrived, dispersing the remnants of the attackers, Alina's gaze drifted to the glowing petals. The memory market siege was over, but the war for the Empire's soul was just beginning, and she was ready to face it, whatever the cost. Outside, the jungle whispered its eternal song, shadows lengthening as night approached. Somewhere deep within the flower, the forgotten king stirred, waiting for the next petal to unfurl.